When Super Smash Bros. Ultimate was revealed, I immediately entered a hype-induced coma. Every single character coming back? Over 80 stages? Ridley finally confirmed! It just doesn't get any better than that for me, and I entered another plane of consciousness. When I finally awoke from my hype-filled stupor, I had an idea for a character that admittedly is pretty crazy, but if I'm being honest, has become my most wanted fighter newcomer in Super Smash. This is an idea that has little to no chance of ever happening, but I still wanted to make this video to share my idea with you guys, and maybe this character could end up making it into a future Smash Bros. Game. Alright, so getting into the actual playable character idea now, because I'm a huge Pokemon fan, the combatant I thought of is obviously from Pokemon. But where this idea gets truly insane and takes a right turn from what you might expect is that the playable fighter idea I have is actually a human instead of a Pokemon. Normally, Smash Bros. Only represents the Pokemon franchise by having the actual Pokemon themselves as playable characters, such as Pikachu, Lucario, and Greninja. But instead of wanting a new Pokemon to join the fray, my mind wandered to the idea of a human from the Pokemon world jumping in and joining the battle. With all this build-up, I think it's finally time for the big reveal. The Pokemon human I want to see in Super Smash Bros., duking it out with characters like Mario, Donkey Kong, and Zelda, is none other than the Masked Royal from Pokemon Sun and Moon and Ultra Sun and Moon. I'm sure some people are shocked I didn't say Hilda, but really, I think the Masked Royal could be the best human representative for the Pokemon franchise. He's recent, having been introduced in Pokemon 7th Generation, he ties into the story of Sun and Moon and Ultra in multiple ways, and I think he has the combat potential to be a pretty good fighter. Now, I have a feeling some of you guys probably aren't convinced yet, so let me explain a little bit more about why I think this character could work so well in Smash and as a Pokemon series rep. So I see the Masked Royal as a wrestler-type character, whose attacks are mostly based on moves that Pokemon can learn in the games. I think the Royal's moveset could be made up of attacks like Flying Press, High Jump Kick, Seismic Toss, Arm Thrust, Bulk Up, and tons of other moves that Pokemon can use in the mainline Pokemon games. I'll go over a rough layout of what his entire moveset could be a little bit later, but for broad strokes purposes, this would be a human character that uses mostly moves that actual Pokemon can do. Now you might be thinking, well, that's a cool idea, Mr. Buddy, but why not just have a fighting type Pokemon like Hitmonchan or Machamp instead to keep with the all Pokemon trend Smash Bros. Has been doing? Why bother putting in a human character, and why the Masked Royal? Well, I can answer those questions. I feel like the Masked Royal, even though we have no idea who it is, reminds me a lot of Professor Kukui. And Kukui's whole deal is that he's a professor who studies the moves that Pokemon use. He likes Pokemon moves so much that he even has Pokemon use their attacks on him to study them. And it's implied that he even tries to use Pokemon moves himself. Now, it might be a stretch, but if we apply Professor Kukui's whole vibe to the Masked Royal, who once again have no connection whatsoever, I think that really helps tie in the idea of a human being using Pokemon attacks. On top of that, the Masked Royal is also a wrestler, so in addition to using actual Pokemon moves, he could mix in a couple of his own style of attacks that revolve around grappling and wrestling style maneuvers. I think to really give you guys a glimpse at how I see this character working, I'm gonna need to go over a rough moveset I created for him. I'm by no means a fighting game expert or game designer, and I just tried to tie a lot of Pokemon moves into his attacks and make him feel like an up-close and personal brawler-type character. So the Masked Royal's neutral attack, or jab, would be a move that I'm calling the Four Island Palm, where the Royal would jut out his arm and palm to strike his enemies. This move would be very reminiscent of the Pokemon move Arm Thrust, and it's also based on the pose the Masked Royal, and strangely enough Professor Kukui, does when talking to the player. I also think this attack could transition into a combo move that resembles the fighting type attack Close Combat. When running, I think the Royal's dash attack could be his own version of a clothesline maneuver, where he puts his arm out to hit an opponent, and if an opponent is running at him and doesn't shield or attack back, then this move could actually cause them to trip and lie prone on the ground. For the Royal's tilt attacks, I think his down tilt could be a moving slide, very reminiscent of Mega Man or Clouds. His side tilt could be a version of Cross Chop where he uses both arms to strike his opponent, and his up tilt could be a new attack I'm calling Hello Alola, where the Masked Royal would bring both arms in close to him, and then sweep them out in an arching movement that's meant to be an attack version of the common greeting in Alola. For the Royal's air attacks, I think his neutral air could be based on flying press, in which the masked Royal would actually contort his body into the pose that Hawlucha does, and if he times it just right, he can actually bounce off of opponents' heads. His forward air would be based on a real-life wrestling move called the Superman Punch, which would have a meteor spike effect to it. His back air would be another kick move, which I think could look close to this pose found in his model sheet, and his down air could be a classic elbow drop seen in real-life wrestling that does bonus damage if used on an opponent who is on the ground. For Kukui, the Masked Royal smash attacks, I imagine his down smash could be a ground stomp that I imagine looking similar to this move that Hala does in the mainline games and would hurt people on either side of him. His side smash could be based on a lariat, more specifically the darkest lariat that Incineroar does, and depending on how long you charge the move up, the Royal will move farther horizontally, and his up smash could be based on Sucker Punch, and this is where I took a little bit of a creative liberty, but I think this move could actually allow the Royal to break through opponents' moves that have super armor. For example, if a Little Mac is charging up one of his punches, and you use Sucker Punch, you could actually break through the super armor effect of Little Mac's attack. For the Royal's special attacks, I imagine his neutral special is a version of High Jump Kick, where you can charge it up and store it, much like Donkey Kong's Punch, and when you want to release it, the attack will fling the Royal upwards, and at the apex of his jump, he'll unleash a powerful kick with a lot of launching power. If you don't get any enemies caught in the actual kick itself, however, then the Masked Royal will crash to the ground and take damage. His side special, and this is where I'm really getting crazy, would be a specialty grab. Now the Royal would still have all the normal grabs that characters have, but if you use his side special grab, which I'm calling Crush Grip, he would deal a small amount of damage to whoever he grabs, and he would be able to do 4 special grab throws that either do more damage than a regular throw, or have more launching power. One of these specialty throws would be Submission, which I think would look exactly like how Machamp does it in Pokken. Another one would be a Pile Driver, which is a real-life wrestling move. The third would be the Masked Royal's version of Seismic Toss. And his final one would start out by the Royal doing Double Slap to partially stun his opponent, before finishing his grab by chucking his opponent over his shoulder into certain defeat. Getting back to all the other specials now, his up special would be based on Sky Uppercut, which would be a helpful recovery move that can also deal damage, and the Royal's final special move, which is his down special, would be Bulk Up, which allows the Masked Royal to bulk up his body and increase his damage and defense for a short period of time. To wrap up the Masked Royal's moveset, his final smash would be a move that he's been working on for years with his Pokémon. A version of Malicious Moonsault that he, as a human, performs. Once he gets a Smash Ball and uses his final smash, you literally get to see the Royal do exactly what an Incineroar would, explosions and all. And that is, and I'm not even joking, the #1 Pokemon character I want to see in Super Smash. Of course there are actual Pokemon I'd like to see as playable characters, but putting in the Masked Royal as a Pokemon series rep, and having his moveset mostly based around Pokemon moves sounds so crazy and awesome to me that I can't help but want the Royal as a playable fighter. Anyways, what do you guys think? Do you agree with me? Maybe you disagree. Are there other Pokemon characters you would like to see in Super Smash Bros? I'm not talking exclusively about human characters, but also Pokemon themselves. Maybe you want Golisopod or Torracat as playable characters. Let me know what Pokemon or human characters you would like to see become playable in Super Smash Bros. In the comments section below. Anyways, thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you later.